Okay, students, in this example, we're gonna sort of combine most of the things we've learned so far. We're gonna start to create this thing called a gear. Most of you might already have an idea of what they look like and stuff. So in this example, we'll definitely start looking at drawing tools, starting on drawing tools, dimensioning, geometric constraints, and on top of that, we're gonna learn all like little things that we already learned. We're gonna start using those, including the pattern feature. Okay. Now again, just to remind you, things to fully define a sketch. These are the things that you must have: position X, position Y, size, and angle. Okay. And then this is essentially the example. So you have this picture. If you want to stop the video here and try to replicate something like this with the things that you already know, you're more than welcome to do that. If not, just stick around and then I'll show you step by step how to create something like this, eventually leading up to a gear that looks something like this in real life. Okay. Now, a couple of things for this example. Make sure you're using inches. And then here, I sort of cut the picture a little bit smaller because the rest of the sketch is sort of irrelevant, right? Just the same all the way around. Because I wanted to zoom in far enough so you can actually take a look at the different dimensions and everything that's going on. Now, as complex as this shape might look, it really isn't, okay? The one hint that I can give you for any CAD project that you might have is always try to simple down the actual shape. Okay, so in this case, look for the simple shapes. We have a circle, we have a square, we have a lot of triangles, and then we have a couple of dimensions, constraints, things like that. And then I think we'll have like one big circle in here somewhere, right? So just look at the simple shapes and then go from there. Start one shape and then sort of build upon that. Okay. And then finally you'll probably end up with something that looks similar to this. Okay. So I'm gonna sort of stop here, and then if you wanna try this out on your own for a couple of minutes, go ahead. If not, just keep on watching the video. All right. So I'm back in Fusion. This is a brand new file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it. I'm probably going to do something like gear 1. And then I'm going to start my sketch. So there it is. And then I'm going to make sure that my units are in inches. So in this case, my document settings, I have millimeters. Change that out to inches. Hit OK. And now I'm in inches. Okay. So we're good. Now, for the picture that you saw previously, one of the biggest shapes that was there is a circle. Okay, so I'm going to take that circle, and if you go back to the image, you should be able to find the dimension, which is 5. Okay, so I'm going to make it a 5-inch circle. Now in this case, my circle is already black because it's fully defined. Okay, it has a position X and Y because it's centered at the origin, and it has a size. Okay, we already commented on why circles don't need an angle, because a circle that way is the same as a circle this way as a circle this way, right? So just sort of keep that in mind. All right. So this circle is fully defined. Okay, I'm good with that. Now the next area that I want to focus on is everything that's happening here in the center. So you have access to the PDF for the presentation that I was looking at before. So if you want to take a look at the image again, you're more than welcome to do that. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off this other circle. Okay, now this circle should be 1 inch in diameter. Okay, and if you want to take a look at that, is we can see it here, right? So we have the main circle, which is 5. We already did that one. And then we have a smaller circle, which is 1. That's the one we just did. Again, that's already fully defined. And then we have a square here, okay? The square is 0.25 by 0.25. And then it's centered about that y-axis, but it's also centered about, so the center of the square is tangent, if you will, to that circle. Okay, so just sort of be careful with that. All right, so let's sort of carry on with that. Now, one thing I forgot to do here is add my axes, so I'm gonna do that. So I'm gonna type L for line. There we go, and then I'm gonna type X for construction because I'm gonna do reference lines, and then I'm gonna create my axis, my x-axis, and then repeat the process for my y-axis. Okay, now I'm going to use those in the future, so that's why I'm doing it down, because I completely forgot to do that at the beginning. But now that I have them, what I need to do now is I need to create that square here. But I'm not just going to type R in my keyboard. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to create rectangle, and then I'm going to do center rectangle. Okay, now the reason for the center rectangle is because I do the first click and then it creates these diagonals as construction lines, which are going to help me. Okay, and you'll see it in a second. Now notice how I'm creating my square out here in space. I'm not creating it right where it should go. Okay, that's the way I always like to work, is I create something out in space and then constrain it into what I already have. Otherwise, if you create something sort of close to the position that it should be, sometimes Fusion might throw in a couple of constraints that you might not be able to see, and it might make things a little bit harder to adjust or move around. Okay, so I recommend you create something out here in space and then constrain it to the position that it should go on to. Okay, so again, in this case, I just created a square with using the center rectangle tool, and then it has this center point right here. Okay, so I'm going to use that center point to constrain it to my y-axis and to constrain it to my circle. Okay, so I'm going to use the coincident constraint, and then I'm going to select the center to my y, so that centers it in the x direction, and then I'm going to do the same coincident constraint, the center to my smaller circle. Okay, and then that's going to position it in the vertical axis. Okay, so that's position X, position Y, size and angle for that square, so it's fully defined. We're good. And now for the I guess the impressive part of this example, how to make the teeth. If we take a look at the image from the presentation, we can see that there's a lot of like little triangles, and then they're just repeated multiple times all the way around that circle, right? So we've already done something like this before, which is the circular pattern. Okay, so we're just going to replicate that. So what I'm going to do here is first I'm going to create a triangle, I'm going to position it, and then I'm going to use that triangle to do that circular pattern all the way around. Okay, so there's two ways we can do that. One, you can either select the polygon and then create that triangle, or two, you can freehand it. So in my case, I think I'm just going to freehand it because I like to sometimes practice some of this thing. Okay, so in this case, we have a triangle. Now I'm going to make sure that all sides are equal, like so. Okay, now that those sides are equal, if I take a look at the image, I should be able to see that that length for any of the three sides of the triangle is 0.5. So I'm going to do that. So dimension 0.5. Okay, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to coincide this bottom corner of my triangle to my x-axis. Okay, like so. All right, now that I've done that part, the only thing that can adjust from my triangle is the vertical position. Okay, everything else is set. So I have the x position, I'm missing the position, the y, but I have the size for all three sides, and I have the angle for all three sides. Okay, and then if we take a look at the image again, we should be able to see that there's one dimension here, that 2.25. That's a distance from the bottom corner of the triangle to the origin. Okay, so 2.25. I'm gonna add that here. So dimension from this bottom corner to my origin, that has to be 2.25 inches. Okay, now everything in that triangle is now fully defined, fully constrained, everything is good to go. Okay, now the only thing that I need to do is I need to go to create and then look for circular pattern. Okay, in circular pattern, I'm going to select the three sides of my triangle, nothing else, and then for my center point, I'm going to select that origin. Okay, Now, right now, the quantity is set at 3, so it's only giving me 3 triangles in total. But that number is way too small, so do 36 instead. And now we can see 36 triangles all the way around that circle. Okay, so make sure you're selecting 36 triangles, and that's essentially the number of teeth that this gear is going to have. Okay, so I'm going to hit OK, and now I have this final sketch. Okay, now notice how I don't have any single blue lines on my sketch, so everything's fully defined, fully constrained, everything is good. But it seems like there's a lot of stuff going on. Okay, now be careful, because eventually we're going to move to creating solids from sketches. Okay, so just because we're already here, I might as well show you how to do that. So this is going to be a super simple extrusion, so just look for extrude or type E in your keyboard. And then for the profile, just select the inside area. So this one highlighted in sort of that light blue, like so. Just select that area. Everything else that's going on in the outside, it's just a boundary to remove material. Okay, so don't select any of the extra stuff. And then the same thing for the inside. Those areas are just there to remove material where it's supposed to be removed. Okay, so as long as you select that inside area, then you should be good. For a distance, do something like 0.5 or half an inch. And then if you hit the little home button over here, then you'll be able to see that specific gear once it's done. Okay, now this is a very simple gear. There's a lot more things that can go down to it, but at this point we'll stop right here. Okay, so things to take from this is again, fully defined sketches and dimension constraints tools, and then also how to start a complex shape with simple shapes in a sketch. Okay, so just create simple sketches that you know, circles, rectangles, lines, triangles, whatever it might be, and make something very complex. Okay, so I'll stop the video right here. If you have any questions, take a look at the video again, or you can always email me your questions. All right.